Picture this: a remote farmstead in the heart of Bavaria, Germany, surrounded by dense woods. A place that should be a symbol of peaceful rural life, but instead became the setting for one of the most chilling and perplexing unsolved crimes in history. This is the story of Hinterkaifeck, a name that still sends shivers down the spines of those who know its dark secret. In the dead of night, 6 people were brutally murdered, and nearly a century later, the killer's identity remains a complete mystery. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this haunting tragedy, explore the bizarre events that led up to it, and examine the suspects in a case that continues to baffle investigators and fascinate crime enthusiasts around the world. Welcome to Hinterkaifeck. The year is 1922. The Gruber family lives on this isolated farm, about 70 kilometers north of Munich. The family consisted of Andreas Gruber, his wife Cecilia, their widowed daughter Victoria Gabriel, and Victoria's 2 young children, 7-year-old Cecilia and 2-year-old Joseph. Also living with them was the family's new maid, Maria Baumgartner. They were known as a reclusive and somewhat unpopular family, with rumors swirling about them in the nearby villages. Andreas was known to be a difficult and domineering man, but the local gossip was nothing compared to the eerie events that began to unfold in the weeks leading up to the murders. It all started with small, unsettling occurrences. The family's previous maid had quit abruptly 6 months earlier, claiming the house was haunted. She said she heard strange noises in the attic and felt a constant, unnerving presence. The Grubers dismissed her stories, but soon they couldn't ignore the strangeness themselves. Andreas discovered a set of footprints in the fresh snow leading from the forest to the farmhouse, but mysteriously, there were no footprints leading away. He searched the property but found no one. That same night he heard footsteps in the attic. He armed himself and searched the attic and the barn, but again, nothing. The next day, a set of house keys went missing. Then, a newspaper from Munich, a city they had no connection to, mysteriously appeared on the property. It seemed someone was living in the shadows of their home, watching them, toying with them. Yet Andreas never went to the police. He told a neighbor about the strange happenings, but seemed determined to handle it himself. It was a decision that would prove fatal. The last time anyone saw the family alive was on March 31st, 1922. A few days passed. Young Cecilia didn't show up for school, and the family missed church on Sunday. This was unusual. Concerned neighbors and a local mechanic who was supposed to fix an engine on the farm went to check on them on April 4th. The farm was eerily silent. The cattle were lowing, clearly unfed, and the family dog was tied up inside the barn. After getting no response, they forced their way into the barn, and there they made a gruesome discovery. Hidden under a layer of hay were the bodies of Andreas, his wife Cecilia, their daughter Victoria, and the young granddaughter Cecilia. They had been lured into the barn one by one and systematically murdered with a pickaxe, a tool known as a mattock. The horror didn't end there. Inside the farmhouse, the search party found the body of the maid, Maria Baumgartner, in her bedroom, and finally, the youngest victim, 2-year-old Joseph, in his cot in his mother's room. He too had been killed with the same brutal force. Maria had only been working at the farm for a few hours. It was her very first day. Her predecessor had fled in terror, and Maria walked straight into a death trap. The initial police investigation was a chaotic mess. Contamination of the crime scene was rampant. Neighbors, friends, and curiosity seekers trampled all over the farm, touching objects and disturbing evidence long before forensics could properly examine the scene. Autopsies were performed on the bodies right there in the barn. The heads of the victims were even removed and sent to a clairvoyant in Munich for examination, a bizarre detail that highlights the desperation and confusion of the investigators. Those heads were later lost during the chaos of World War II and have never been recovered. But the most perplexing detail was yet to come. The investigation concluded that after committing these horrific murders, the killer didn't just flee. They stayed. For several days, the murderer remained at Hinterkaifeck. The cattle had been fed, meals had been eaten from the kitchen, and the neighbor's dog, which was tied up outside, hadn't barked, suggesting it knew the killer. Someone had murdered an entire family and then lived alongside their victims, tending to the farm as if nothing had happened, before finally disappearing without a trace. So, who could have done this? The list of suspects is long and winding, and every theory seems to lead to another dead end. The first and most prominent suspect was Lorenz Schlittenbauer, a neighbor who had a complicated history with the family. Victoria Gabriel's husband had been declared killed in action during World War I, though his body was never found. After his death, Victoria and Lorenz began a relationship. He was widely believed to be the biological father of little Joseph. Their relationship was stormy, and they argued frequently, especially over financial support. Lorenz acted suspiciously after the discovery of the bodies. He was one of the first on the scene and moved the bodies around, potentially contaminating the evidence. Years later, people claimed he'd made strange comments about the crime, but he was a respected man in the community, and police could never find enough evidence to charge him. Another theory points to Carl Gabriel, Victoria's supposedly dead husband. What if he wasn't dead at all? Some of his fellow soldiers claimed he had survived the war and was planning to return. Could he have come back to find his wife with another man and a child that wasn't his? Could a jealous rage have driven him to annihilate his entire family? It's a compelling narrative, but there's no proof he ever returned to Germany. Other theories range from transient vagrants to a politically motivated attack, but none of them hold up to scrutiny. Police interviewed over 100 suspects throughout the years, but the case went cold. The farmstead itself was demolished in 1923, just a year after the murders, erasing the physical location of this nightmare from the map. All that remains is a small memorial where the farm once stood. In the decades since, the Hinterkaifeck murders have become the stuff of legend. Modern investigators and amateur sleuths have revisited the case, applying new forensic techniques and psychological profiling. In 2007, a German police academy took on the case as a training project. Using modern investigative methods, they came to a final conclusion, but chose not to name their prime suspect out of respect for the individual's living relatives. They stated only that they were confident in their findings, but that the evidence was too old to be legally conclusive. And so, the mystery officially remains unsolved. The report is sealed, and the name of their suspect is a secret they've taken to the grave, much like the killer of Hinterkaifeck. What are we left with? A story that feels more like a horror movie than a true crime case. A phantom who lived in the attic, footprints in the snow that led nowhere, and a killer who stayed for dinner. The haunting truth of Hinterkaifeck isn't just about the brutality of the crime. It's about the chilling uncertainty that surrounds it. It's a stark reminder that sometimes evil can appear without a face and disappear without a trace, leaving only questions and a lingering sense of unease. The shadows of Hinterkaifeck are long, and the ghosts of the Gruber family still whisper their unsolved story to anyone who dares to listen. What do you think happened on that fateful night? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more dives into the world's greatest mysteries.